Welcome, everybody. So all yoga is therapeutic. Everything that yoga offers is therapeutic, but not all bodies are ready for all the practices. We have so many different types of conditions, limitations, injuries, traumas that we are all dealing with from birth onward and before, even if you want to go into past lives, we're carrying things still. So sometimes when we do a regular yoga practice, we actually are aggravating or exacerbating some of the conditions that exist. So for instance, if you're already out of alignment, some of the regular practices will cause inflammation because of the rubbing or the friction, or there'll be more tension created because there's a weakness in a part that we aren't aware of, but over time we think yoga is hurting us, but yoga is not hurting us. We are already out of alignment in some way. And so how do we find this out without having to hurt ourselves first? And that's one area we're going to focus on over the whole course that's coming up starting Saturday. And another thing is the amount that we practice. Not all bodies can do daily practice, especially a 2-hour practice, because this will increase the inflammation and not give enough time for recovery. So my body has been through a lot, and I'll just give you a really brief history here. Is I was a competitive gymnast. I trained 4 hours a day, every day for 8 years in very vigorous manner. My goal was to achieve certain things, and I did not want to let up on those goals. So I didn't listen to my body. And I injured myself many times along the way, even in the micro injuries. So every landing jarred the joints. Every overstretch to achieve a certain appearance. Again, we do this in yoga too, by the way, okay? Every time I did that, I was micro injuring myself, which later started to show up in aches and pains and stiffness. I also had other things happen. So epidural injury, low back was really tight for many, many years. I had lack of energy flow into the legs. It took me years and years to undo that. I'm talking 16 years. So it wasn't a quick process, but I learned a lot along the way. And what I learned mostly, which is what we'll be working with, is how to release the tension that is held in the body because of fear of re-injury, and also the trauma. How do we release that? That's just like it's a difficult place to imagine how to do it. There's a process, of course, and the process is gradual, and it's very intentional, and it takes time, and it takes persistence. One session is not going to fix you. This is a lifelong practice on any end. So whether you're moving from health to greater strength and health, or you're moving from injury to recovery to becoming much healthier, or whether you are on the downslide right now because of karma, because of past actions, even recent past actions that have put our body in a very vulnerable state. How do we move out of that into something more stable? So a lot of us are dealing with instability, and that's emotional instability, mental instability, and physical instability. And that is because we are trying to live to a standard. Survival requires us to keep going, right? Sometimes we push ourselves when our body needs to rest. Sometimes we ignore nagging emotional issues because we can't appear weak, or we can't have a problem because other people depend on us. Every time we do this, and we've all done this, and we're still doing it, okay? And we're going to do it till we die. But knowing when the balance is becoming really off, we can pull back and bring ourselves into some of the practices that rebalance us. For some people, that will mean more rest. Some people, it will mean more fun, because we're living sometimes pretty hard, depressing lives. And I say depressing, not that we're depressed clinically, but that we've got all these world issues that cause us to feel like, where's the joy in anything, right? So whether it's you need rest or joy, or maybe some discipline, maybe we're overly looking for joy. Maybe we need to pull back and say, hey, what really matters and what do we really need to do? So this is reflected in our practice. Our diet shows us imbalance. When you reach for chocolate or sugar more often, there's an imbalance going on. It means you are lacking something, and usually it's energy. If you're looking for caffeine or sugar, it's because we're lacking in energy. And how do we lack in energy? I mean, I can't ask you and look for a response, so I'm going to guess some of the responses. One way is we don't get quality rest. We might be sleeping, but we are dreaming a lot. We're working out our daily issues. Another way is that we're not drinking enough water. Water is really important. We don't realize it. There's so many yummy things to drink, right? Coffee, tea, juice, all these things. And there's more. I can go on with the alcohol and the energy drinks even. We think it's energy, but it's a temporary energy fix. And then another thing that we lack is oxygen. Anytime you are mentally occupied, and that's a lot of the time, anytime you are mentally occupied, you are decreasing the depth of your breath. Have you noticed this? Sometimes we even hold our breath, especially when we're typing at the computer, we're responding, we're really thinking, focused. There's a very, very subtle breath. There's no depth at all. We need to take a break and take another deep breath. Now, how many deep breaths are we taking? Are we taking enough? Most of the time we're not. And most of us don't even know how to breathe deeply enough to get the oxygen we really need for the energy to do our tasks. So the interesting thing is, we all have a purpose, right? We're all here to do something, whether it's for ourselves or for society or for humanity or for our family members. We know this. It's ingrained. It's like constantly pushing us to do the things we do. But if we're not breathing deeply enough, if we're not sleeping well enough, and if we're not drinking enough water, we're running at a deficit. You keep running at a deficit and all the tissues in the body start to contract. They contract because they don't have the oxygen or the water or the rest. When they're contracted, they stick together. So you've heard of fascia before? Connective tissue. Okay, connective tissue is you could call it a wrapping. It wraps everything. It wraps each individual muscle group and each muscle and all the muscles under the skin, and they attach to the bones as tendons. Okay, so you're familiar with tendinitis, right? Tendinitis is a lack of give in the connective tissue. So when you go to make a movement, especially a repetitive movement like walking, we are expecting the connective tissue to expand like it's supposed to. It's supposed to move with your body, but we're lacking in mobility because there's no glide. There's not enough oxygen or water in the tissues. So now they bunch together and they hold together like glue. So what happens when we move is where they're attached at the bone, they start to tear because there's no place for it to give anymore. We haven't rested, hydrated, or nourished ourselves enough to get the right amount of movement in the connective tissue. So we're injuring ourselves just by not living a balanced life. And these are the most important pieces of being balanced. Of course, there's other parts of balance, which you probably already are aware of, but I will mention keeping the right company. If you're taxed emotionally and energetically, you won't do the right things for yourself when you're done. You will leave that company and go, I need a drink. I need a coffee. I need a chocolate. I need to give myself something to feel better, but that's only immediate gratification. It has long-term negative effects. You can do it once in a while, but that is a sign of being imbalanced. A sign of being balanced is leaving a person whose company was draining and sitting for a few minutes, taking some long, deep breaths, a drink of water, closing your eyes and centering yourself. That is a more healthy way to handle the lack of energy you just came across because you've been drained. So how we come back into balance is going to be something to think about. Now, today, we're going to be doing some exercises that bring your body into a more, I'd say, we're going to open some energy channels through the areas that have been blocked. And I'm going to tell you, we all have blockages. Blockages come in various sources. Injury is one of them, obviously, but so is emotional tension. So anything you've not dealt with thoroughly, which, by the way, we don't always have the capacity to deal with everything that comes our way when it comes. So we put it away. We kind of push it back. We ignore it, or we just jump ahead of it because right now you can't deal with this thing. But that thing still lives inside of you. Your cells have the capacity to remember. Every thought you have based on an emotion, okay? So when you have an emotion come up, then you start to think about that emotion. You're like, oh, why did this happen? Why did they do that? Why me? Oh, whatever it is we're thinking, right? That stays in the cells that have been created at that time, because we're always creating new cells, right? It lives in your body until it's resolved. So you wonder how all of a sudden you go from perfect health to not. It's not immediate, it's gradual. It's coming slowly. It's developing. It's been dormant. It's been gradually, your habits have been accumulating the negative energy in the body, or the tension. We could call it negative energy. You could call it tension. You could call it pain. You could call it whatever you want. It's living in your body. How do we get rid of it? One way is to move the body and breathe and hydrate. Another way is to meditate on it. Sometimes it's very deeply set in the psychological self. And so what we have is a need to make peace with the things that caused us this tension. Peace will resolve the holding. It doesn't move it out of the body, but you have the ability to release it with the understanding of what happened, or even the acceptance of it. Understanding is not as important as accepting. Accepting is first. Once you accept something that has happened and caused tension or trauma, then you can start to understand it. But acceptance has to be there first. So whoever did whatever to you is actually part of your growth and learning. Is that something you can accept? Can we all accept the fact that everything that's ever happened to us is because we needed to grow from an experience of some type, and it happened to be this experience? Because if you can go there, you can heal. If you don't go there, you will hold it and it will continue to fester. So it's your choice. It's always your choice. Things happen, but it's your choice of how you deal with it. If you choose to deal with it, when you choose to deal with it. Sometimes life is very busy. We can't break down right now. So you have to hold it for a little bit longer until there's a moment where you can work through it. And sometimes things take a long time to work through. Sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's more. The idea, though, is that you're aware of what you can do with each of these life experiences that you're storing in your body. So with that, I encourage you to take a drink of water. We're going to start afterwards with you're going to need some things. We're going to practice today. You can be on the bed. You don't have to get onto the floor. You can even sit in a chair for some of this. Oh, I have a question here. Let me see what that question is, see if I can answer it. Yes, a lot of the things that happen are beyond our control, but the truth is all the things that happen to us without our awareness of them happening are out of our control. It's just because we are not creating them consciously. We are inviting experience as we're ready for it. Is that another thing we can accept? The fact that the experiences that happen to us happen when they need to happen. We can't live a perfect life in the sense that nothing ever happens negative to us. Because if that's what we did, we wouldn't be learning very much. We wouldn't be advancing in our knowledge. We wouldn't be advancing in our ability to help other people. We wouldn't understand life as well if we didn't have these experiences. So the only thing you can control is how you respond as soon as you are aware of what is happening or what has happened. That's where you control your life, in the way you move forward from what has happened. And you can avoid something if you want, but guess what? You let your guard down for 1 second and it's coming. You know why? Because it's destined to be coming for you. Because you have a certain set of things that need to be learned at this time, in this lifetime. And you can avoid them all you want, but they're going to come to you at some point. And you're just slowing down your development. We're all here to evolve, right? Are we all on that same page? I'm assuming that we're all understanding that we're here to evolve. So evolving sometimes happens on different levels: emotional, mental, physical, psychological, spiritual. All of it, by the way, affects you spiritually. I'm just going to ask Tatiana, can you mute yourself, please? Maybe I can do it for you. I did it. Okay. I just want to make sure everybody's muted before I continue. And welcome to those who are joining us a little bit later. Okay. How did that happen? I have you clicked. 1 second, everybody. Okay, going back. So it's not working. Okay. Yes, now it is. No. Okay, well, you can unmute yourself, right? Yes. Okay. Did you want to add anything, Shambhavi?
No, continue. It's beautiful. Continue.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I just upgraded the Zoom account. I don't understand all the features. So I have never had this many people come to my class. So we are just learning this part. Now, really, what we want to do is we want to release the stuff that we're holding. And we want to do it in a way that's safe and gradual and hopefully as painless as possible. Some of the exercises may alert you to the imbalances in the body. And you can choose to go at them more gently or gradually or slowly or not at all, if that's what your body needs. But I encourage you to make the tiniest little bit of movement in the direction that we are wanting to move ourselves and breathe through it. Okay? None of these movements are going to be strenuous, by the way. These are all very small and detail oriented, but not much weight bearing at all. It's really about mobility and release in the joints. And that's today's practice. Okay, so if you're going to carry on with this course, just so you know, there'll be some exercises for vertigo, balance, proprioception, strengthening the joints, releasing the tension. There'll be exercises specific to shoulders, hips, knees. We'll do some of that today even. There'll be exercises for the breath as well. And we will have some deep relaxation as well as a part of this. So a little bit of yoga nidra and restorative in the end parts of the classes. There's 14 hours of this training coming up. So with that, make sure you have, if you don't have a block, a yoga block looks like this. If you don't have a yoga block, you can get yourself a thick book, a blanket, a pillow, have a mat. Your water would be nearby because sipping is good. So you're going to start lying down with or without a pillow under the head. Okay, so you're going to lie down on your back. And first, let's make sure we're comfortable, okay? You can have your knees bent and your feet on the floor, or you can extend the legs. You can also put something underneath your knees. And we're just going to get comfortable here. So lying flat on the back. So with the knees bent, you're going to part your feet to the width of the mat and drop the knees in toward each other and let them rest either against each other or in that direction. Okay, so I'm just waiting. Most of you are getting settled, so I'll give you a moment. Good. I can see most of you. Great. Okay, so we're on our backs. Our feet are wide, our knees are dropping in. Place the hands on the upper belly. Now this feels like a comfortable place to rest the hands anyway. You could put one hand or both hands. As you inhale, you're going to breathe to where the hand is resting now. As you exhale, let the air out slowly till there's no more. And again, breathe to where the hand is resting on the upper belly. Exhale, release the air. Again, take your time. Inhale, fill the lower part of the lungs. Allow the belly to rise. Exhale, release. We'll continue this for a little while. Inhale, fill the belly. Exhale, release. Now, as you exhale, make sure the last bits of air come out. Push it out. Use your abdominal muscles to contract a little, navel to spine, and then release that contraction. Inhale, fill up. Exhale, navel to spine. Again, inhale, fill up. Exhale, navel to spine. Notice how the breath is getting longer. Again, inhale, fill the bottom of the lungs where the hand is resting. Exhale, slowly release the air. Navel to spine. Again, filling up the belly. Exhale, release. Now we're going to slide the hands to the bottom of the side ribs. So just above the waistline, bottom ribs, place the hands. As you inhale, you're going to fill the bottom of the lungs and let the belly expand where your hand was. And then once that's full, you're going to breathe into the sides of the lungs where your hands are now. Exhale, slowly release. Draw the belly button toward the spine. Now I'm going to sit up and do this, but you're going to stay lying down, okay? It's easier for me to demonstrate seated. All right, so continue. Fill the belly first. And then the sides. Exhale slowly. Again, fill the belly. The sides. And release. Nice and slow. Don't rush the exhalation. Navel to spine. Push the air out. Again, release the belly. Inhale. And the sides. Exhale, release. Again, fill the belly. To the middle of the chest. And then fill the bottom of the sides toward the armpits. Exhale, release. Again, fill the belly. Middle chest. Bottom of the sides. All the way to the armpits. And release. Slowly. And again, fill the belly. Middle of the front. Bottom of the sides. Toward the armpits. And release. Now, if you're starting to feel a little flustered or anxious, you don't need to take the breath in quite as full, but still try to get it to the areas that I'm mentioning. So again, inhale, fill the bottom of the lungs. Let the belly move outward. Then the middle chest, right between the two ribs and the sternum area, breastbone. Then the bottom of the side ribs. All the way toward the armpits. Exhale, release. Slowly releasing the air. Again, fill the belly. Middle of the chest. Bottom of the side ribs. Armpits. Slowly release. I'm going to slide the hands to the back ribs now. Your backs of your hands will touch the bottom of your back ribs. You're still going to fill the front like you were. If your shoulder doesn't like this, just do it with the hand that allows it, okay? Fill the belly first. Sternum area, breastbone. Fill the sides of the bottom of the lungs toward the armpits. And now bring air into the back of the lungs where the hands are. And slowly release. Now this is going to be challenging, but you need to concentrate. Little by little, you'll get there. Inhale, fill the belly. Middle. Bottom of the sides. Upper sides. Low back. And release. So this is much easier lying down. Those of you who are still seated, you may want to lie down. You're not going to be able to get quite the movement in the lungs seated yet. It'll come eventually. But if you can only sit, you're still going to get something out of it. So I'm just saying that lying down is better for now. Inhale, fill the belly. Middle. Bottom of the sides, upper sides, low back, upper back. Exhale, release. Notice how long the breath is now. Again, fill the belly. Middle, bottom of the sides. Upper sides, low back, upper back, and release. You can move your hands out from underneath you now. We're going to continue filling the lungs all the way around. You don't have to do them in sections now. Fill everything from bottom to top, front, sides, and back. Again, fill the front and the bottom, sides, back, all the way up between the shoulder blades. And release. A few more times. Inhale, fill the front, sides, back. Exhale slowly. One more like this. Front, sides, back. Exhale slowly. Okay, we're going to change our shape now. So you can extend your legs out toward the end of the mat. We're not going to stop the breath work, but we're just going to change things a little bit. So you may still keep your pillow under your head. We're going to walk the feet to the right side of your mat. Your legs are still straight. You're just going to sweep them to the right. And now bring your upper body over to the right as well. So you're like a banana. And the left arm is up over the head. Now you may need a block underneath that forearm to protect your shoulder. So you want to have it at a height that is easy for your shoulder to relax. So if it needs to be higher, you can turn the block up a bit higher. So our feet are swept to the right. You could, if it works in your body, you could cross the left ankle over the right, but I'm going to suggest waiting just a little bit before we do that, okay? So your feet are near each other, but they're not being held together. You're just relaxed in this position. It's like a curved Shavasana, except your left arm is up. Now, let's start by breathing like we were a moment ago. Fill the belly to the middle of the chest. Fill the sides. Fill the back. But you may notice that there's a long stretch happening on the left side of the body. So when we're breathing now, you're going to focus the breath into the left lung. So it's a little easier to do this practice when you are lying down, but you can do this seated too. It's just not as relaxing. Allow that left hip to sink down toward the mat. The left shoulder to release. Breathing deeply from the bottom rib to the armpit on the left side. Exhale slowly. Relax the feet and the ankles completely. So a reminder here that energy flows where there is no tension. You have to release the tension in the jaw. Let's say ah. Everybody say ah, ah. Let the mouth hang open. Let the jaw be soft. Let the back of the neck release. Let the low back drop toward the floor. Continue breathing into the left side of the lungs. Keep taking deep breaths. Keep letting go through the left shoulder. Keep letting go through the left hip. Breathing deeply into the left side of the lungs. So we're going to be here a little bit longer. See if you can relax into this. Let go a little more. So we're affecting quite a few organs when we're doing this practice. For one, we're increasing the lung capacity on the left lung. We're opening up the sticky tissue that doesn't get exercised with the expansion of the breath. We're also working on the stomach because the stomach is on the left side of the body. We're moving the energy through that organ. We're also affecting the left kidney. We're releasing the lymph from the armpit in the left side. All the lymph nodes under the armpit here are being released because we're allowing the arm to stay open for this long while breathing and expanding into the left side. So now at this point, if you want to take it a little further, you can cross your left ankle over the right. If it doesn't feel good, uncross it or slide your feet a little more towards center of the mat and keep them crossed. So the idea here is we're extending and lengthening the left side even more. So let's take another 5 deep breaths into the left side toward the left armpit. Okay, we should be just about finished that 5th breath. On the exhalation, draw the belly button toward the spine, press the low back to the floor, walk all the limbs back to center into Shavasana. You can bend the knees actually and put the feet back on the floor for a moment. Some of you are going to have some low back tension, and this is normal because we're working things out of the body. So bending the knees, placing the feet on the floor is going to be helpful. Let's now breathe into both sides of the lungs. So someone asked here what the correct arm position is. The left arm is over the head in this case, and it's resting alongside the head. Your elbow could be bent or straight, whatever works, but the arm is supported, okay? Now, breathe into both sides of the lungs. Both sides right now. Breathe into both sides. And by the way, if your knees are bent, part your feet to the width of the mat, drop your knees in towards each other. This is called constructive rest. This is ideal for lengthening the low back. A lot of people have low back tension, and we don't want to increase it with straight legs. Then when the legs are straight, it tilts the pelvis, lifting the low back, causing a bit more compression in the lower vertebra. So when the knees are bent and the feet are on the floor, the low back drops toward the mat, elongating the low back, creating space. Breathe into both sides of the lungs and see which side takes in more air. At this point, you should feel a little more expansion in the left lung. So good, yes. We're going to carry on with the next side. So extend your legs out toward the end of the mat. Walk your feet to the left side and don't cross them. Don't hold them together. Just let them move to the left side and relax. And now pick your upper body up and sweep it over to the left. The right arm is over the head. You may need support, like a block or a pillow or a folded blanket underneath your right forearm. Your left arm really doesn't matter what you're doing with that arm. That arm can be out to the side. It can be over the head as well. Yes, but you want some support for your right arm. Now you're letting your right hip sink down toward the mat. And you're breathing deeply into the right lung. Low back is dropping toward the floor. Jaw is relaxed. Say ah, ah. Very important that the jaw stays relaxed. It rests the whole nervous system, puts you back into the relaxation response. Breathing all the way from the bottom rib to the armpit on the right side. You should be feeling a lengthening of the connective tissue right from the hip all the way to the elbow on the right side. And with the expansion of the breath, you'll be moving the energy through the liver and the right kidney and the ascending colon, and of course, the right lung. So think about filling that right side with the breath all the way. Keep the jaw relaxed and the breath full. Exhale slowly, releasing the air, letting the low back drop toward the mat. If you find the low back very uncomfortable, you can bend your left leg, put the foot on the floor, but keep the right leg where it is. Breathe into the right side to the point that you cannot take any more air in. You really need to practice the expansion to the fullest capacity, which will grow with each breath. There's so much to do in the practice of therapeutic yoga that it was hard for me to decide where to start with you in this webinar today. But the low back and the lungs are the most, I'd say, overused and under cared for. So I thought today we would do this. What I would like you to try now is to cross the right ankle over the left. If that doesn't work for you, just go back to where you were or slide both your feet just a little more towards center. So you're still in the banana shape, but even more so, you're not rolling over to the side at all. You're flat on your back. If you're on your side, you've moved your legs too far over to the left. Keep breathing and relaxing into the pose. Make sure your jaw is soft. We'll take about 5 more deep breaths here. Relaxing that right shoulder, letting the right hip drop heavily. There's always more to let go. Always. Yeah, we can do a little bit of neck work. So after you're finished that 5th breath, which probably you have another 1 or 2 left here, once you're complete, on the exhalation, draw the navel toward the spine and the low back to the mat, and then slowly bring everything back into Shavasana, 1 limb at a time. You can also bend the knees, place the feet on the floor. Part your feet to the width of the mat, drop the knees in, and breathe into both sides of the lungs. So if you're finding this delicious, meaning your body's loving it and you want more, you should do this more often and for longer. Some of you will find your tolerance will be gradually increasing with practice, and this will help open things up. Now, to release the low back, we're going to slip a block under the pelvis. So put your feet on the floor, lift your pelvis. If you don't have a block, roll a blanket or put a pillow. Put something under your pelvis and rest your pelvis down on it. So the block will be at lowest level, okay? Don't think Iyengar right now. Low level, flat block. Flat, yes, yes. Part your feet wide and drop your knees in. We don't want to do anything aggressive. If this feels too high, Annie, slide your block down towards your tailbone a little more. Oh yeah, or use a folded blanket if that felt too high, but a little bit more highly folded than that. It should be comfortable and it should be near your tailbone. Your knees are bent and your feet are on the floor. So I'll just quickly show you. Lift the pelvis, slide the block under. Your low back is not touching anything. Part your feet to the width of the mat, drop the knees in toward each other. So I'll let you feel what's happening here, but I'll also tell you about it in a moment. For now, once you're in position, knees dropped inward, feet wide, low back, letting go toward the floor. Take deep breaths into the bottom of the lungs, front, sides, and back. Let gravity pull your back down toward the mat. So there'll be a gradual elongation of the lower vertebra, or the space between the vertebra. Of course, the vertebra themselves don't change in shape or size, but the space between them can grow when we let go of the low back tension. So low back tension is caused by a number of things. So I'll be doing a little bit of talking at this point while you're breathing and releasing. First of all, low back is the most mobile part of the spine. It is the bending part. You know, you move sideways, you twist. It has a lot of more flexibility. But it's also overused because our upper backs are too tight. So everyone knows this. Our upper backs are too tight, and they're too tight for a number of reasons. One, we don't hold ourselves as nicely as we could in our posture. Two, it's the center of the heart energy, and we've all suffered some type of you could call it heartache, you could call it disappointment, you could call it injury to your emotional state. Your heart center needs to recover from all the little injuries it's ever had, because when it's not processing and releasing, it's contracting. When it contracts, everything in that area contracts. The chest muscles tighten, the back starts to round, the head gets heavier because of the angle we're holding our body at, the shoulders slope inward. Not only does it affect our view of the world and how we feel about ourselves, but it also affects our ability to take deep breaths. We want to continue moving the rib cage and all the organs in it fully to keep the tissues that connect our bones or hold our bones or connect, I'd say, mostly connect our bones together, especially in the spine, flexible. The deep breaths move things out and back in. This movement releases whatever tension we create. I see some of you have your legs up. That's a fine practice too. This is like legs up the wall. You're still getting a low back release. You can try it if you want. Now, if you want, you can also keep your feet on the floor and just sway the knees slowly from one side to the other. Yeah. So you'll be releasing low back in this way as well. Yeah. So that's either legs up or feet on the floor and sweeping, put your feet on the floor and swing your knees slowly from one side to the other. Yeah, but part your feet wide on the mat first. Yes. Good. Now, these things are going to loosen up the tension, but it's like I said, it's not going to happen right away. You need time in these positions to let go. And you actually have to go there mentally. You have to go into the discomfort, into the tension, and ask it, can you please let go? It's okay to let go now. You have to coach your body into releasing because the memory of fear or tension or trauma is still there. You have to talk your body through it. Eventually, it will create a new pattern of holding. It will be either more relaxed or it will maintain its openness for longer. Of course, there'll be a day where you're carrying heavy bags and you make a trip up the step and your back will tighten up again, but you know how to get it back to becoming looser. So the patterns in the body take a long time to change. We're not going to get immediate results, but gradual results. And it'll help us function better. All our joints will move better. All our strength in the body will not be drained from the pain that's happening when we learn how to release it. Okay, so you're not here that long. We have a few things to take care of before we finish up today. One thing, keep the block underneath you and bring your knees to your chest. Give them a hug. Now we're extending and lengthening the low back as much as you possibly can because the block is under there. Yeah, move the block in a different position if it hurts. You just want it to be lifting the pelvis. Yeah, breathe. Yeah, you can move it up a little higher. Yeah. And let's take about 3 more deep breaths in this position. So this is a good alternative to plow with the block under the pelvis and the knees coming in. You can even extend the legs toward the head, but not lift your pelvis any higher. So this is a nice alternative to plow. Those of you who are teachers, this is a wonderful way to share the benefits of plow without the intensity. Of course, there's always the wall. You can always do it that way, but this is mild. This is a mild experience of plow. Let's take 3 more deep breaths here. Okay, push the block out from underneath you. You don't even have to put your feet down. Just use your hands to push the block out and roll to your side. Take your time coming up. If you don't come up right away, take your time. So that's another thing. Lie down on your side for a minute. Okay, I'll show you a couple of things. This is just alerting me now as to one thing about our bodies is You just spent some time releasing tension, right? You want to make it work right away afterward. You're only inviting the body to contract the way that it used to. I don't know if this makes sense. If you pause between the release and action, you give the cells a chance to realign in a new arrangement, a more elongated or spread out or expanded shape. So now when you go to activate, first of all, you can't get up the way you always do, because you're going to reinforce the old pattern, okay, in the body. You now need to come up a different way. Now, some of you already know which way I'm going to talk about, but I'll walk you through it anyway, okay? So even though you know, pretend you don't for a moment. You're lying on your side. Let's bring the knees a little closer to the chest, a little closer. Now roll forward a little bit more so you bring the forehead to the mat. Put both arms on the mat in front of you. And then as you come up, you're pushing with your hands, letting your head hang, and you're rolling up one vertebra at a time. You're not lifting your head. Lift your head. So some of you lifted your head. Come back down. Come back down. Let's make sure that we get this, okay? Let the head hang. Push into the hands, round the back, one vertebra at a time, rolling up. Now, the back never once became engaged. That's how we want to move in and out of our postures, because we're wanting to keep the relaxed and elongated state. If you come up like this, you're contracting all the muscles here and in the neck. We don't want that. We want to go the other way, nice and slow. Now, somebody asked about neck tension, and I was planning on doing this. So Bill, this is for you. I'll give you some exercises that we're going to do, and then we're going to talk. I'll talk while we're doing them, okay? So you get the explanation, we get more in. Now you're going to sit up on something, either a folded blanket, a pillow, or a block. If seated cross-legged doesn't work for you, you can sit in hero's pose or on a chair or on the couch, okay? So we're going to sit upright, and we want to have the pelvis slightly tipped forward, but we don't want to use the low back muscles. So I'm going to show you this, okay? My legs are on the floor and my pelvis is tilted forward, but I'm not using my low back to arch. This is a pattern for some people, okay? We don't want that. We want the low back to drop down, and we want to lift the chest, and we want to allow the ears to be over the shoulders and the shoulders to be over the hips. The navel is just, not the navel so much, but the core just above the navel is slightly drawn inward. This is the ideal seated position for elongated spine. I'll talk to you about what we're doing, but I'll first instruct it, okay? So while we're here, drop your chin down towards your chest. Full weight of the head dropped forward, full weight. Don't hold the head up at all, okay? But the chest is still lifted, tailbone is still dropped. Okay, now, you're going to breathe here into the upper back. Full weight of the head dropped forward. I see some heads not fully dropped forward. Okay, yes, good. Breathe now into the upper back. The neck is an information highway. Never mind the structure, how skinny it is, and versus the size and the weight of the head. The neck has all the nerves from the brain passing through to the body. All the information that has to be passed through from body to brain passes through the neck. How much information are we taking in on a regular basis? An immense amount, so much. Some of it unnecessary. Some of it we could just tune out. Some of it we could totally not know about because it's not relevant to us. But the more you process, the more the nerves need to pass along information, the more tense the neck gets. Anybody here clench their jaw? Yeah. Jaw clenching is a sign of too much happening through the nervous system. So you want to release the jaw so you can release the tension in the neck. Now, while you're here, swing your head slightly to the right, bring your chin to the middle of your right collarbone. Nose is now dropping toward your right thigh. So you're on a bit of an angle. Your chest is still lifted. You're really not using muscles in the neck for this, okay? So those of you who are working with the neck, stop. Just drop the head in the right direction. So toward the right, and it's dropped down. You should feel a pull behind the left shoulder blade. Keep breathing in between the shoulder blades. Jaw stays relaxed. Breathing deeply into the upper back. A few more deep breaths here. Okay, well, that means you have Agnes, that means you have a tight neck. That area of your neck is tight. That's why that happens. So she says when she relaxes completely, her head moves back to center. So it's hard for her to keep it slightly to the right. Now we're going to take it slightly to the left. Okay, come back to center. We do the same thing now. Chin drops toward the middle of the left collarbone. Nose drops down toward the left thigh. If it slides a little bit back to center, that's okay. Just try to, breathe here. Breathe into the upper back. This is really important to release every single angle possible, not just the same angles all the time. And it's because we're cylindrical. Our muscles are ropey. They're like cylinders. They're not one way. They're not flat. You have to get different angles for things to release. So keep breathing here. Om Namah Shivaya, Deanna. You can catch the remainder if you want on recording, okay? Keep breathing into the upper back. Drop your chin down toward the shoulder or the collarbone. Yeah, more the collarbone than the shoulder. Okay, swing your chin back to center. Lift your head slowly up. All right, now we're going to drop the right ear over the right shoulder. Keep your chest lifted. We're going to be here a little while. Relax the jaw. Say ah. Yeah, I encourage you to leave your mouth open. Ah. Keep dropping the left shoulder down away from the left ear. And since we're almost done, I can share this with you now, but about a half an hour ago, there was an earthquake here. Did anybody see the screen shake? No? It was a 6.1 magnitude. 6.7. 6.7. Oh, it says 6.1 here. Anyways, I wasn't sure we were going to be able to continue, but we're fine. Okay, drop your chin down towards your chest. And inhale, left ear over left shoulder. And we'll stay here for a few breaths. Now, I know these exercises aren't maybe brand new, but maybe the length of time that we're in them might be for you. Or the way we align ourselves might be new for you. Perhaps the jaw relaxing is new for you. Well, somebody said something here. Well, I'm on the Big Island of Hawaii. Yeah, somebody asked. Yeah. Apparently there's an active volcano right now. We're going to go see it tomorrow. Jaw relaxed, breathing fully. Let that right shoulder drop down. Now there's more. There's way more we can do here, but I don't want to overwhelm you. I don't want to take too much time out of the workshop for this, but we're going to drop the chin down toward the chest and then lift the head back up. Turn your head to the right, back to center, to the left, back to center. Thank you. I will enjoy the trip. So now, I want to ask you, how do you feel in the neck? You can unmute yourselves. We can have a little discussion. Well, I want to know if you have any questions. How does the neck feel? Does it feel more mobile, more loose? It's the time. It's not just to go here and back and here and back. It's that we were there for a minute and a half, and here for a minute and a half, and here for 2 minutes, actually. So by doing the length of time, you're changing the structure of the connective tissue, which really gives the opening, releases the tension. Remember, if you have an issue somewhere in the body, don't overdo anything with it, okay? So if you want to hold it a little longer than usual, hold it a little longer than usual, just a little bit, not 10 times longer than usual, because you aren't going to come out very easily, and it's spasmy sometimes, okay? So it's a subtle, gradual increase of time that you hold in the postures, especially something like standing forward bend or even seated forward bend, that type of thing. Because all yoga is therapeutic, it's how you apply the practices that make it therapeutic for each individual. Yoga therapy is a training that teaches you how to apply the different practices in different ways for each individual based on their needs. It's a much more in-depth learning. It's 800 hours of study, and it covers more than just this physical structural work that we're going to do in this particular training. It covers Ayurveda and more psychological, and also it gets into some more detail of yoga practices when it comes to pranayama, meditation, and that type of thing. For this therapeutic, it's sort of a section of what yoga therapy training offers. And it's it's more based on what people need on a regular basis to help themselves. Or if you're teaching, to help your students just find more physical alignment. It's definitely only a portion of the whole thing, but it's a valuable portion, and it's one that can be applied regularly and often. I encourage you to join the course, because there's so much more we're going to do with the fingers, the wrists, the elbows, the shoulders, the hips, the back, the spine, the knees, the ankles, the toes, and our breath. And thanks for joining me again, and I hope to see you soon.